He poured her drink. Delayed 911. Accident or plan? What did Noah
Don't
actually
drink
see?
it. That was the scream that split our dinner table in half. But it came too late. Because by the time my 9-year-old son said those words, I had already swallowed. Have you ever had a moment when your body knew something was wrong before your mind could catch up? A moment so small it should have passed like any other, except it didn't. It stayed. It widened. It turned everything that came before it into a warning you should have seen. That's what happened to me. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. My name is Elena Carter. I'm 34 years old, a dental hygienist, a mother, and at least until that night, a woman who believed danger usually arrived loudly. A slammed door. A raised voice. A threat you could hear coming. I didn't know it could come in a cold glass sweating on a dinner table. It was a Thursday. Ordinary on the surface. That's the part that still haunts me. The kitchen lights were warm, the kind that make everything look softer than it is. My husband Daniel had grilled chicken. Noah was picking at green beans with the serious concentration only kids can give to avoiding vegetables. The dishwasher hummed in the background. Our dog scratched once at the back door and then settled down again. Nothing dramatic, nothing cinematic, just a family dinner. And then Daniel did something small. So small I barely registered it. He poured my drink for me. That doesn't sound strange, right? Husbands pour drinks, people do nice little things all the time, but Daniel never did. Not really. He was polite in the kind of distant, efficient way that looked good from the outside, helpful when it served a purpose, careful with appearances. And lately, though, I hadn't wanted to name it, he'd been oddly attentive in flashes. Not warmer, just more deliberate. That night, he brought me a tall glass of iced tea with lemon and set it beside my plate with a quick smile that didn't quite touch his eyes. "Made it the way you like it," he said. And I remember thinking that was nice. That's the kind of thought that can break your heart later. How innocent it was. How automatic. Noah looked up when Daniel set the glass down. Just for a second. His little face changed barely. If I'd blinked, I might have missed it. He wasn't scared yet. More like alert. Like he'd noticed a sound no one else heard. I should tell you something about Noah. He's quiet but not shy. Observant in a way that makes adults uneasy sometimes. He notices who's lying, who's pretending, who says, "I'm fine," while clenching their jaw so hard you can hear the words crack. He doesn't always know what the thing means, but he always knows something is there. That night, he kept glancing between Daniel and the glass. "Eat your dinner, buddy," Daniel said, too quickly. Noah dropped his eyes to his plate. Again, small. Harmless on its face. I lifted the glass. The ice clinked softly. Condensation slicked my fingers. I remember the exact coldness of it against my skin because seconds later that detail would become absurdly important to me. I took a sip, expecting lemon and tea and sugar. Instead, there was something else. Not enough to name, not enough to spit out, just a strange, bitter edge buried under the sweetness, a flat chemical note that didn't belong there. It touched the back of my tongue and vanished so fast I almost convinced myself I imagined it. Almost. Then Noah shot up from his chair so hard it scraped against the tile. "Don't drink it." The whole room froze. His voice wasn't loud in the normal way kids get loud. It was raw, panicked, torn out of him. I lowered the glass, blinking at him. "Noah?" He was staring at the drink. Not at me, not at Daniel, at the glass. His face had gone white. His eyes looked too wide, fixed and terrified, like he was seeing something the rest of us hadn't caught up to yet. Daniel exhaled sharply, annoyed. "What is this now?" But Noah didn't answer him. He took one step backward from the table. And in that exact moment, the first change hit me. A faint tightening at the base of my throat. Nothing dramatic. Not choking, not yet, just pressure. A subtle inward squeeze as if my body had suddenly become aware of itself in the worst possible way. I swallowed once, then twice. The second time hurt. I set the glass down carefully. "Why would you say that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm for Noah's sake, but it came out thinner than I intended. He opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Daniel. That look passed between them so fast it could have been missed. Not confusion, not childish guilt, fear. Real fear. And then, for the first time that night, my stomach dropped. Because Noah wasn't acting like a kid who wanted attention. He wasn't acting like a kid making something up. He was acting like someone who had seen a car coming before anyone else stepped into the street. The pressure in my throat sharpened. Heat slid downward into my chest. The room suddenly felt too close, too bright. I touched my neck without meaning to. Daniel pushed back his chair. Elena, don't encourage this. He's been dramatic all evening. Dramatic. The word landed wrong. Not because of Noah, because of Daniel. He wasn't confused enough. He wasn't concerned enough. If your wife takes one sip of a drink and your son screams like that, shouldn't your face change? Shouldn't something crack open? But Daniel just stood there, controlled, watching me. I looked back at the glass. Amber liquid, ice floating near the top, a lemon wedge pressed against the side, completely ordinary. So why did I suddenly feel like it was the most dangerous object in the room? Noah, I said more quietly now, what did you see? His lips trembled. And before he could answer, my throat clenched so hard I couldn't pull in a full breath. My fingers shot to my neck. The chair legs scraped as I stood too fast. Daniel said my name. Noah started crying. And that was the moment I understood something was terribly, impossibly wrong. I couldn't breathe right. Not fully, not deeply, just enough to stay upright, which somehow made it worse. Because if I had collapsed immediately, there would have been no room for denial. But this left space for lies. For second guessing. For that terrible human instinct to explain away danger while it's still unfolding. I gripped the edge of the table and forced air through my tightening throat. Mom? Noah's voice cracked. I'm okay, I tried to say. It came out as a rasp. And tell me something, what's more terrifying than pain? When the people around you start deciding what your pain means before you do. Daniel was beside me in 2 steps. Not panicked, not wild, efficient, controlled. He put a hand under my elbow as if I were just dizzy. She's fine, he said, and somehow he was talking more to Noah than to me. She probably swallowed wrong. Swallowed wrong. My chest was tightening, my tongue felt strange, almost thick at the edges, and there was a prickling sensation moving into my lips. That was not swallowing wrong. My body knew it, Noah knew it. Daniel either knew it too, or he was refusing to see the obvious. I pulled away from him. No, I whispered, then swallowed hard against the pain. Something's wrong. Daniel's jaw flexed. Elena, sit down before you make it worse. The words should have sounded caring. Instead, they sounded managerial, like he was trying to get the scene back under control. Noah didn't sit. He didn't move at all. He was still staring at the glass with that same fixed horror, his little hands curled at his sides so tightly his knuckles had gone pale. I crouched halfway, ignoring the dizzy wave that rolled through me, trying to get closer to him. Honey, I said, each word scratching on the way out. Look at me. He did, but only for a second. Then his eyes darted to Daniel and back. That was when something old and ugly shifted inside me. Not a thought, a pattern. The way Noah had grown quieter around Daniel over the past few months, the way he used to chatter through dinner and now mostly listened, the way Daniel had started correcting him more sharply, more often. Tiny moments I had filed away under stress. School, growing pains, life, reasonable explanations, convenient explanations. Now they all came rushing back wearing different faces. What did you see? I asked him. Daniel straightened. Enough. He's already upset. I looked at him. Really looked at him. His expression was composed, but too composed. His eyes weren't darting between me and Noah in confusion. He wasn't asking what happened. He wasn't checking my pulse, grabbing his phone, calling for help. He was watching and measuring and speaking in this low, steady tone like a man trying to reduce liability. My throat tightened another notch. I coughed, once, hard, and pain flared under my jaw. Noah flinched like the sound hurt him. Daniel, I said, call 911. He didn't move. That hesitation lasted maybe a second, maybe less. But in a crisis, a second becomes a confession. It's too early for that, he said. Let's see if it passes. Too early? My heart started knocking harder against my ribs. I reached for the glass. He reached too, just as fast, and for one strange moment our hands hovered over it together. Then he said, I'll dump it and make you water. Dump it. A cold pulse of fear cut straight through the heat in my throat. No. I pulled the glass toward me, nearly sloshing it. Leave it. That changed his face. Barely, but enough. The polite mask slipped just for an instant, and underneath it, I saw irritation. Not concern, not fear for me, irritation that I had interrupted whatever he expected to happen next. Noah saw it too. "Mom," he whispered. I turned back to him. He was trembling now, his eyes glossy with tears he was trying not to let fall. He looked trapped between two fears, fear of saying it and fear of not saying it. "You can tell me," I said softly. Daniel's voice hardened. "Noah, sit down." Noah didn't. And then a memory flashed so sharply it almost knocked the breath out of me. Earlier that evening, I'd walked past the kitchen and seen Noah standing in the doorway, looking toward the counter. Daniel had been at the sink with his back turned. I'd asked if everything was okay, and Daniel had answered for both of them too quickly that he was just making drinks. Noah had looked like he wanted to say something then too. Now, in the present, he took one shaky breath. "I saw Dad," he said. Daniel stepped forward. "That's enough." Noah's voice broke, but he forced the words out anyway. "I saw Dad put something in your glass." And just like that, the room changed. Not emotionally, physically. The walls felt closer, the air thinner. The silence after those words had weight. I stared at Noah. Then I looked at Daniel. My throat burned, my pulse hammered, and for the first time, I wasn't wondering whether I was overreacting. I was wondering what I had swallowed. "I saw Dad put something in your glass." What would you do in that moment? Believe your child? Or believe the person you've built a life with? Because you don't get time to sit with it. You don't get space to weigh it calmly. The decision starts happening inside you immediately, fast, instinctive, and terrifyingly irreversible. The silence after Noah's words stretched thin. Then Daniel laughed. Not loudly, not naturally, just enough to break the tension. "Okay," he said, exhaling through his nose like this was ridiculous. "That's what this is about?" I looked at him, really looked, this time. "Tell me what you put in it," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Inside, everything was splintering, fear, confusion, anger, denial, all trying to take control at once. Daniel held my gaze. "Lemon extract," he said smoothly. "You said you liked it stronger." Lemon extract. It almost worked. It was just believable enough. Just normal enough. Except, Noah shook his head violently. "No, it wasn't. It was from the garage." The garage. That word didn't belong anywhere near a drink. My stomach dropped so fast it made me dizzy. The dizziness was already there, spreading, but now it had something to anchor to. Something real. Something named. "What from the garage?" I asked, my voice tightening again. Noah's breathing sped up. "A bottle. The blue one. He poured it when you weren't looking." Daniel's tone snapped sharper. "Noah, stop." That one word carried something new. Not frustration. Warning. I felt it land between them, like a line drawn in the sand. And suddenly, all the pieces that didn't make sense started aligning in the worst possible way. The bitter taste. The burning throat. The hesitation to call 911. The way he reached for the glass. The way he said too early. My fingers went numb. I grabbed my phone from the table, nearly dropping it as my coordination slipped. My hands didn't feel like mine anymore, slow, clumsy, tingling. "I'm calling," I said. Daniel moved, faster than I expected. His hand closed over mine, not violently, but firmly enough to stop me. "Elena," he said, low and controlled, "you're panicking." "I can't breathe," I shot back, or tried to. It came out broken, breath catching halfway through. "You're making it worse." There it was again. Control, containment, not urgency, not fear. Containment. I yanked my hand free, stumbling backward as the room tilted slightly. The edges of my vision blurred, like someone had smudged the world with their thumb. Noah let out a small, terrified sound. "Mom." "I'm fine," I lied, because that's what parents do even when everything is clearly not fine. Go get Mrs. Lang, now." "Our neighbor. 2 houses down." A safe variable. Noah hesitated, looking at Daniel. "Go," I said, sharper this time. He ran. The front door slammed. And just like that, it was just me and Daniel. The silence felt different now. Heavier. Stripped of pretense. I backed toward the counter, putting space between us. My throat tightened again, harder this time. I coughed, choking on the air that wouldn't come easily. Daniel watched me. Not helpless. Not frantic. Watching. "You're overreacting," he said quietly. "Then call 911, I rasped. Another pause. Another calculation. Every second stretched long enough for my body to register more wrongness, my chest constricting, my pulse erratic, a strange weakness creeping into my arms like gravity had doubled without warning. He finally reached for his phone. But something about the movement felt delayed, like he was choosing the moment, not reacting to it. That's when it hit me. Not just fear. Clarity. "You didn't expect me to drink it yet," I said. The words came out before I could stop them. Daniel's eyes flickered. Just once. But it was enough. Everything inside me went cold. Because that wasn't the reaction of a man falsely accused. That was the reaction of a man caught off timing. My knees buckled slightly, and I grabbed the edge of the counter to stay upright. The room spun harder now, my breathing turning shallow and sharp. "What did you put in it?" I forced out. He didn't answer. He just stood there, phone in hand, watching me deteriorate like he was waiting to see how far it would go. Seconds passed. Or maybe longer. Time was slipping. Then, so quietly I almost didn't hear it, he said, "You weren't supposed to drink it yet." The words didn't echo. They didn't need to. Because in that moment, my body stopped fighting the idea that this was an accident and started understanding something far worse. My vision tunneled. The floor rushed up faster than I could react. And as everything went sideways, one thought cut through the chaos. This wasn't a mistake. The last thing I felt before I hit the ground was my throat closing. Not tightening, closing. Like something inside my body had made a decision without me. Air wouldn't go in. My chest heaved anyway, pulling at nothing, each attempt sharper, more desperate than the last. My fingers clawed at my neck as if there were something there I could physically remove. There wasn't. "Mom!" Noah's voice echoed somewhere far away, and then the front door slammed again. He was gone, running, good. That thought flickered through the chaos like a weak signal. He's safe. He's getting help. And that left me alone. Alone, with Daniel. I forced my eyes open, just enough to see him standing over me. Not kneeling, not rushing, standing, watching. Have you ever seen someone hesitate when they shouldn't? Not freeze, hesitate. Like they're weighing outcomes instead of reacting. That's what he was doing, measuring the moment. Measuring me. My lungs burned, my vision fractured at the edges, black creeping inward like ink spilling across paper. My body felt distant now, heavy and unresponsive, like I was already halfway disconnected from it. This was real. Not panic, not misunderstanding. Intent. Fragments of memory began firing rapidly, out of order but suddenly sharp. Daniel at the kitchen table weeks ago, papers spread out, insurance forms. He'd said it was just an update, routine. A phone call he took outside last month, voice low, tense. When I asked, he said it was work. The garage always locked lately. He said it was to keep Noah out. Noah asking me once, quietly, "Why does Dad get mad when I go in there?" All of it. Every small, dismissible moment, snapping together now into something complete, something ugly, something undeniable. My body jerked as another failed attempt to breathe tore through me. A choking sound escaped, weak and broken. Daniel finally moved. He crouched beside me, one hand pressing lightly against my shoulder not to help. Not really, just there. Like he needed to appear involved if anyone walked in. "Elena," he said, low and steady, "you need to calm down." Calm down. My vision blurred further, but I locked onto his face as best as I could. There was no panic there. Only control. And beneath it, something colder. I tried to speak, tried to force words through a throat that felt like it was sealing shut from the inside. Why? The word barely formed. He didn't answer. Instead, he stood up again and finally dialed his phone. But even that felt staged. Delayed. Calculated. "Hi," he said when someone picked up, his voice shifting instantly. Softer. Urgent, but not too urgent. "My wife, I think she's having an allergic reaction. She can't breathe." Allergic reaction. The words drifted through my fading awareness, surreal and distant. That's what this was going to be. That's how he planned it. Not poison. Not intent. Just a tragic, unfortunate reaction. Clean. Explainable. Believable. My hand twitched against the floor, reaching without direction. My fingers brushed against something cold. The glass. Still there. Still within reach. A detail he hadn't accounted for. Footsteps pounded outside. A voice loud, sharp, unfamiliar in its urgency cut through the fog. Daniel, what's happening? Mrs. Lang. Noah must have made it. Relief hit me in a strange, distant way, like it belonged to someone else, like I was observing it instead of feeling it. Daniel turned toward the door, his posture shifting again, adjusting, performing. She just collapsed, he called out. I think it's an allergy. But Mrs. Lang didn't stop at him. She rushed past, dropping to her knees beside me. Elena, can you hear me? I tried to nod. I don't know if I did. Behind her, Noah hovered in the doorway, pale, shaking, but watching everything. Watching him. Sirens. Faint at first, then louder. Closer. Daniel stepped back slightly now, creating space, distancing himself from the center of the scene as it expanded beyond his control. The room filled with noise, movement, questions, urgency that finally matched what my body had been screaming from the start. Paramedics rushed in, bags hitting the floor, voices overlapping. What did she ingest? When did symptoms start? Allergies? History? Daniel answered quickly, smoothly. No known allergies, it came on suddenly. One of the paramedics reached for the glass. I saw it happen through narrowing vision, the pause, subtle but unmistakable. He leaned closer, sniffed, and then his expression changed. Not dramatically, but enough. He looked up. This doesn't smell like anything you'd drink, he said. Silence cracked open again. And this time, it wasn't empty. It was loaded. Because in that moment, the story Daniel was trying to hold together started to fall apart. And I realized, just before everything went black, this wasn't going to stay inside this house. This doesn't smell like anything you'd drink. That was the sentence that broke everything open. Up until that moment, there was still a version of reality, thin, fragile, but present, where this could be explained away. An allergy, a coincidence, a misunderstanding blown out of proportion by panic. But once the paramedics said that, the room shifted. Because now it wasn't just my body reacting. It was evidence. Hands moved faster after that, purposefully. A mask was pressed over my face, forcing oxygen into lungs that had nearly stopped cooperating. Another paramedic took the glass carefully, like it mattered, which it did, more than anything else in that room. What exactly did she drink? He asked again, sharper this time. Daniel answered immediately, I told you iced tea, lemon. The paramedic didn't look convinced. And for the first time since this started, Daniel looked uncertain, not afraid, just aware that control was slipping. At the hospital, everything became clinical. Fast. Efficient. Detached. They stabilized my breathing first. Medication, oxygen, monitoring. My body responded, slowly pulling back from the edge it had been pushed toward. The burning in my throat dulled. The crushing tightness eased just enough for air to move again. But clarity came before comfort. I remember the doctor's face as he stood beside my bed hours later. Measured, careful. Your symptoms weren't consistent with a typical allergic reaction, he said. We ran toxicology. That word lands differently when it's about you. Toxicology. They found traces of an organophosphate compound, he continued, commonly used in industrial pesticides. The room went very still. Even though I already knew. Even though my body had known from the beginning. He went on to explain precisely, clinically, what that meant. Small dose, enough to impair respiratory function, enough to escalate if untreated, enough to kill under the right conditions. And then came the rest. Police had already been notified from the scene. The paramedics flagged it. The glass had been secured. The residue inside it tested. And the blue bottle Noah described? They found it in the sink. Partially rinsed. But not enough. Daniel hadn't planned for interruption. He hadn't planned for a child to be watching. I didn't cry right away. That's the strange part. People expect tears, shock, collapse. But what I felt first was stillness. A cold, quiet understanding settling into place. He had tried to kill me. Not in anger, not in a moment, but deliberately, carefully. I stared at my hands for a long time after the doctor left. They were steady again, functional, alive. That felt surreal. Noah was brought in later. He didn't run to me. He approached slowly, like I might break. "Mom," he said. My throat tightened again, but this time it wasn't physical. "I'm here," I told him. That was enough. He climbed onto the chair beside the bed and leaned into me, small and shaking, finally letting everything he'd been holding spill out. "I didn't know what it was," he said through tears. "I just knew it wasn't right." "You knew enough," I whispered, pulling him closer as much as the wires and monitors would allow. "You saved me." That's when I cried. Not because of Daniel, because of Noah. Because he had seen something no child should ever have to see, and he acted anyway. Daniel was arrested that same night. No dramatic chase, no denial that held up for long. The evidence was too clean. Too direct. Toxicology matched the substance found in the garage. The glass connected it to me. Noah's statement filled in the gap of intent. And then there was the motive. Financial records, uncovered debts I didn't know existed, significant ones, hidden behind layers of accounts and delayed payments. And the life insurance policy, updated 2 weeks before. Increased, detailed, deliberate. The narrative he had tried to construct, slow illness, unexplained decline, collapsed under the weight of everything he hadn't accounted for. He was charged with attempted murder and child endangerment. There wasn't much room to argue. Socially, it spread fast. Neighbors, friends, coworkers. Everyone who thought they knew him had to reconstruct that image from scratch. Some refused to believe it at first. Others accepted it too quickly. But none of that mattered to me in the way it might have before. Because the only reality that mattered was this. The person I had trusted most had measured out something meant to stop my breathing and handed it to me across a dinner table. The divorce process was immediate. Clean, in a legal sense. Not in any other way. Full custody of Noah was granted to me without contest. Daniel's absence became official long before it became emotional. Noah started therapy within weeks. He asked fewer questions than I expected. But the ones he did ask stayed with me. Did he want you to die? There's no easy way to answer that. So I didn't make it easy. "Yes," I said. He nodded. And somehow that honesty seemed to steady him more than anything else could have. Final resolution moment. Months passed. Recovery wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Breathing returned to normal, the physical damage faded, but certain things didn't reset the way they used to. Trust doesn't grow back the same way once it's been cut at the root. One evening, I stood in my kitchen again. Same house. Same table. Different world. Noah sat across from me, doing homework, occasionally glancing up, not with fear anymore, but with awareness, a kind of vigilance that hadn't been there before. I poured a glass of water. Simple, clear, safe, and still, my hand paused halfway. Just for a second. That hesitation, that tiny fracture in routine was the only visible trace of everything that had happened. Noah noticed. Of course he did. "You're okay," he said quietly. Not a question. A statement. I looked at him, then at the glass, then back at him. And this time, there was no uncertainty left. No hidden variables, no unseen hands shaping the moment. I took a sip. Cool, clean, exactly what it should be. I set the glass down, and for the first time since that night, the silence in the room felt normal. Not heavy, not waiting for something to go wrong, just quiet, and that was enough.
Would you have trusted him or Noah? Rewatch closely. You missed something important.